Hello, it's Ukraine on Air and Marisa Tomaszewska with the Daily News. Renewed airstrikes on Kyiv left more civilians dead. However, the Russian forces' chances of taking over the capital decrease, as the Ukrainian army has encircled 3 strategically important suburbs of Kyiv.
On the morning of the 23rd of March, enemy shelling resulted in the burning and destruction of private homes, garages and apartment buildings in the Shevchenkivsky district of Kyiv. One person was injured and hospitalized. On the evening of the same day, Kyiv Mayor Vitaly Klitschko said that the parking lot of a shopping center in the Podilsky district had suffered shelling recently. One person was killed and 2 injured were hospitalized. At the same time, the armed forces of Ukraine have been making progress in the Kyiv direction. They encircled Bucha, Irpin and Hostomel in the Kyiv region. Liberated Makariv remains under the control of the Ukrainian army. However, a number of populated areas in the Kyiv region are still occupied by the Russian troops.
Russian forces have increasingly resorted to long-range rocket strikes and artillery bombardments. On March 23, the city of Mykolaiv and populated areas of Luhansk region were exposed to more indiscriminate attacks.
On the night of March 22nd-23rd, Russian forces shelled in Hulsky district of Mykolaiv in the south of Ukraine. As a result, a warehouse, 5 vehicles and a 2-story apartment building caught fire. 2 people were killed in the attack. According to the State Emergency Service, an enemy shell hit an apartment building in Rubizhne, Luhansk region. The attack killed 4 people, including 2 children. As a result of the shelling, numerous fires broke out throughout the region.
At least 24 people were killed as a result of horrendous strike of the Kharkiv Regional State Administration on the 1st of March. The city itself has experienced massive destruction after Russian shelling.
Since the day of the shelling of the Kharkiv Regional Administration, the bodies of 24 people have been pulled out from under the rubble. This was reported by Yevhen Vasilenko, a representative of the main Department of State Emergency Service of Kharkiv region. On the first day, rescuers reported 7 dead. Later, their number grew to 10. No final information is available as work on the removal of the rubble continues. The scale of the destruction of Kharkiv is immense. Since the onset of invasion in Ukraine, Russian forces have destroyed 1,143 buildings in the city. Almost 1,000 of them are residential houses. This was reported by Kharkiv Mayor Igor Terekhov on the 23rd of March. According to him, utility workers and volunteers are restoring everything that they can.
The war in Ukraine claims the lives of at least 977 civilians, and many more were wounded, according to the UN data.
Civilian casualties from the 24th of February 2022 to the 23rd of March totaled 2,571 civilians, including 977 deaths, according to the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. The real figures are suggested to be significantly higher, as the process of gathering information is complicated in places of active combat operations. As of the 24th of March, according to the Center for International Security, 57 civilians, including 2 children, were killed as a result of the Russian invasion in the past 24 hours. 1 civilian was captured, and according to official information, a total of about 30 civilians were kidnapped or taken captive. These figures do not include victims in Mariupol, Volnovakha, Kyiv, Luhansk, Kharkiv, Kherson, Chernihiv and Sumy regions.
The President of Ukraine announced the creation of a special website for people who want to give or receive humanitarian aid.
Volodymyr Zelensky stated that all 4 nuclear power plants and their 15 nuclear units operating on the territory of Ukraine are under threat. The Chernobyl nuclear power plant has turned into a war arena, and the 30-kilometer zone around it is used to prepare new attacks. Regulatory work, system maintenance and repair activities at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant are not carried out in a full scope. Fires are recorded within the exclusion zone. Regulatory oversight of nuclear and radiation safety directly at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant site is also impossible due to the presence of the Russian military.
The President of Ukraine announced the creation of the special website for people who want to give or receive humanitarian aid.
President Volodymyr Zelensky announced the creation of a special website through which anyone can provide or receive humanitarian aid. According to the president, in the past 2 weeks, Ukraine has received more than 100,000 tons of humanitarian aid. This aid is quickly distributed through special hubs into different regions of the country, but there are even more requests for additional humanitarian aid to fulfill. In order to facilitate the process of humanitarian aid collection and distribution, the help.gov.ua website was created. On the website, you can get instructions how to acquire or how to send humanitarian aid.
Russia continues to destroy cultural heritage of Ukraine. Russian forces are hitting museums and picture galleries.
On the 23rd of March, the enemy's fire ruined the building of the art museum named after Arkhip Kuinzhi. The museum had been housing the original paintings of world-renowned artists, including Aivazovsky, Lushchenko, Yablonska and others. Their fate is still unknown. Previously, Russian troops burned the Ivankiv Historical and Local History Museum in Kyiv region, where over 20 priceless works of the artist Maria Primachenko were stored.
Putin instructed to receive payments for supplies of the Russian gas only in rubles, in response to imposed sanctions.
The Russian President Vladimir Putin has instructed to urgently switch to payments in rubles for gas suppliers to Europe. According to him, payments in dollars, euros and other currencies due to sanctions have become meaningless. Advisor to the head of the office of the President of Ukraine, Mikhailo Podolyak, called such statement of Putin as another step towards escalation. Recently, the US House of Representatives has voted in favor for ban of imports of Russian oil, natural gas and coal to the United States in response to Russia's invasion. Moreover, possibility of a ban of exports of the Russian oil is actively discussed among the EU countries.
Despite Russia-Ukraine war, a lot of big international companies haven't left the Russian market yet. Among them are companies that enrich Russia's budget with a huge amount of taxes.
The largest taxpayers in Russia among foreign companies continue to operate in the country, that is, waging war against Ukraine. The largest taxpayer in Russia is Philip Morris. In 2020, it paid $4.8 billion to the Russian budget. The tobacco giant did not close its business in Russia, but only suspended new investments. In second place, another tobacco manufacturer, JTI, $3.6 billion. The third is Renault Automobile Company, $972 million, which refuses to leave the Russian market.
On March 23, Volodymyr Zelensky delivered two more impassioned and well-tailored addresses to the international partners. This time he urged the French and Japanese lawmakers to dial up pressure on Russia.
Volodymyr Zelensky addressed politicians and the people of Japan. The Ukrainian president stated that he appreciates Japan's firm resolve to stop Russia's war against Ukraine. At the same time, Zelensky emphasized the need to help his country even more so that Russia would seek peace and stop the tsunami of its brutal invasion. In a later address to the French parliament, the Ukrainian president called for providing his country with more weapons to defend itself, as well as for imposing more economic sanctions against Russia. He suggested that Renault, Auchan, Leroy Merlin and other French companies should leave the Russian market.
The European Union has confirmed the decision to double its military aid to Ukraine. The agreed existing measures will finance both supplies and military equipment. The cooperation in the field of reconnaissance will also be enhanced.
On the 23rd of March, the Council of the European Union adopted assistance measures under the European Peace Facility that will further support the capacity and sustainability of the Ukrainian armed forces to defend the country's territorial integrity and sovereignty, as well as protect civilians. The assistance measures will increase the initial budget by an additional 500 million euros, doubling its original amount to 1 billion euros. Moreover, the European Union has approved an agreement with Ukraine that would allow the organization to share classified information, such as satellite images, with Kyiv. This was reported by Bloomberg. The treaty will initially last 1 year and may be extended.
NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg previewed the alliance's summit and said he expects leaders will approve plans to continue their assistance to the people of Ukraine.
The NATO summit of leaders to be held in Brussels on the 24th of March will agree to provide Ukraine with equipment for protection against chemical, biological, radiological and nuclear threats. NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg announced this at a briefing a day before the summit. At the same time, he reiterated the position of the alliance that it strives to prevent the outbreak of war outside Ukraine. As reported, Volodymyr Zelensky will take part in the NATO summit on the 24th of March in video format.
March 23 was a big day for the United Nations. The 11th Emergency Special Session of the General Assembly resumed its work to address the unprovoked Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
On the 23rd of March, an emergency special session of the UN General Assembly on the situation in Ukraine caused by the Russian invasion resumed its work. This is only the 11th time in history that the UN has convened such an emergency session. The General Assembly is expected to adopt a resolution entitled Humanitarian Consequences of the Aggression against Ukraine. The previous meeting of the emergency session was held from the 28th of February to the 2nd of March. On the 2nd of March, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution on aggression against Ukraine, urging Russia to immediately withdraw its troops from Ukrainian territory. Nevertheless, the aggressor did not follow. Russia submitted its own personal draft resolution on the humanitarian situation in Ukraine, which was rejected by the UN Security Council. What's more, Russia uses the platform of this international organization for threats. Dmitry Polyansky, Russia's deputy ambassador to the UN, said that Moscow reserves the right to use nuclear weapons if the country is provoked by NATO.
Stand with Free Ukraine. Subscribe for our channel.